Hey!
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself. I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Oh, nobody wants this. You and me both wearing ties to work? My heavens. Who signed up for this?
It's too serious in here today.
Yeah, you know what, though?
Jeez.
I resent the fact that these cameras are up and we're not 100% operating on the cameras yet, because then I could prove to people that I clean up nice. All right?
We'll have to take a picture. You always have social media, Alex.
No, thank you. Well, come on in. It's JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex, Kiri, Jeremiah Jensen. And we appreciate you joining us on the program. Alex Napolis producing for us today. What's up, Alex? Everything good? Everything? Yeah, he's good.
I got a thumbs up from Alex.
Oh, good.
You got two Alexes.
Too many Alexes, but you know what? We'll take it. We've got so many things to chat about today. We are absolutely. I'm ready to put my complaint into the powers that be television sports folks. ESPN punted the college football playoff rankings reveal until 6:30 tonight. I don't know if they assume that they're going to need extra time to come up with an explanation as to why BYU is number 11 in the college. I don't know. They went backward. You know why? I didn't see enough in Salt Lake on Saturday. So
members of the committee didn't think it was a hold.
I just could you imagine? What they should do is be like this. They should have their because I know for a fact that, do you remember that Mark Harlan used to be on that college football playoff committee?
He was last year,
What
right?
if he would have rolled it out and he sat down and they go, okay, can you give us an explanation why BYU was not in the college football playoff at the higher level? Well, I've got an explanation for you. That game was stolen from us.
That's right.
We won that game. Somebody else stole it from us. And he'd be like, oh, okay, enough said. So I'm interested to see how this thing rolls out, but that'll happen. Obviously, the full reveal is going to be tomorrow from us, at least. But tonight at 6:30, you're going to get the college football playoff rankings. Let's kick off our show. Our program brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs that quick, tasty, and nutritious boost. Let's jump into the top of the show right here, and let's get right into it. It's The Cut. Let's do it.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And, of course, this portion of the show brought to you by Trajan Wealth, your local trusted financial fiduciaries, 801-899-7600, or you can just visit their website, trajanwealth.com. All right, so here's the deal. The University of Utah, no rest for the wicked. Tomorrow, you're going to hear our conversation. We have our weekly dip in with Mekhi Bernard. And I'm interested to see. Now, we do have some things from yesterday that the University of Utah, their normal weekly dip in with the media about kind of where things are at here. And you have nothing to do except for just walk your butts right into Boulder next week and try to right that entire ship. And most of the people that I chat with, and you tell me, JJ, I don't see it this way because I still don't believe that Colorado has turned it all the way around. Just like I think that Vegas sometimes doesn't think that BYU's turned it all the way around, even though they're 9-0, right?
Right.
Why on earth should I believe that Colorado is everything as advertised? I don't think that they've had super impressive wins. I know that they beat Texas Tech last week. I know it's shocking that they put up 500 yards on the worst defense in the Big 12.
They had to rally, by the way. They were down early.
When it was 13-0, I went, holy cow, what's going on?
This is exactly how I thought it was going to play out. I thought they were going to lose that game, and early, that's how it went. But give them credit.
Since when does Texas Tech play defense? And then Iowa State, don't have any idea what those guys are going to be doing. But you go Colorado, Iowa State, and you go UCF if you're Utah. And frankly, I don't know if it's too much of a gut punch. Can you overcome what happened in Salt Lake last week? And it's not just the fact that you are struggling on your offense. I'm not sure what the Brandon Rose situation is going to end up being. I know that that's something that people are kind of looking around at. I heard PK talking about it today, and he's like, I'm going to find out a little bit more about what's going on, if Brandon Rose is going to end up being the guy or what.
Yeah, I can't get into that.
It's a lot of speculation at this
There's some stuff going around, but we won't do that right now.
And look,
we'll let them make that announcement.
We'll let Utah roll it out. They obviously wouldn't tell anybody anyway.
Right.
But you might end up seeing Isaac Wilson coming back in another situation where he's the second choice, and you don't know. But again, you have your best player go out in Brant Kuithe for the rest of the year. On top of all the things that this program is going through right now, pulling out of this tailspin, does it happen? Is the ability there for Utah to still be able to pull out of this tailspin and do it at Colorado?
100%. 100%. Last week, let's give Utah some credit last week. They gave BYU everything they could take. And outside of that controversial call, had that game in the books in their own building. And that would have been a massive lift for the players in that program. They played their guts out. I don't think there was anybody on that sideline, coaches and players, that didn't leave it all out there. It just wasn't enough. And now they've got another opportunity this week. You're playing a Colorado team that is ranked in the top 25, a Colorado team that is in position right now to make it to the Big 12 championship game. They control their own destiny with that. And their own destiny when it comes to the college football playoff. And we all know that this Colorado team right now is a hot brand, and everyone's talking about Colorado. They talk about Travis Hunter. They talk about Shedeur Sanders. They talk about Coach Prime. This is a big opportunity with big noon kickoff on Fox being in Boulder for this Utah team, just like they did against BYU, to go take another shot at a team that's up there in the rankings where this team thought they were going to be this year. And a win over Colorado on Saturday completely changes their season. Suddenly they become 5-5, and they simply have to split the last two games to get bowl eligible. And I think it would be really good for this program to get bowl eligible this year after all they've been through. There's a lot of young players that could benefit from it, but I think it would show a lot for this team to prove that they weren't going to quit. They weren't going to quit. Don't quit. You've got a chance this weekend to knock off a ranked football team in their place. Let me go through Colorado's schedule, Alex. Remember they escaped that loss to FCS North Dakota State week 1?
We knew that was going to be a tough one.
Week 2, they went to Nebraska. They got worked 28-10.
Oh, Mahomes light? Was it Dylan Raiola?
Yeah.
He's not playing it anymore, right?
I think
he got hurt. I think he broke something.
Pardon me for not following Nebraska week in and week out. I have no idea. The next week, they went to Colorado State, and they won that game 28-9. Yeah, sure. Colorado State, not great, right? Baylor, they won that game by a touchdown. Baylor's mid, right? UCF, we saw them against BYU. Not great. They won that game 48-21 in a blowout. The good team, the ranked team they played this year, they lost to. They lost their only game against a ranked opponent, 31-28 against Kansas State. And I watched that game. It wasn't 31-28 close. Kansas State pretty much had control of that game, right?
Well, it required a little bit of a comeback from Kansas State at the very end. But again,
you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like, it wasn't like Colorado was impressive in that game.
Kansas State was the better team, you could tell. And
exactly.
It was just like, a matter of time before they ended up
and they
running
figured
them
it
down,
out.
and they did.
Arizona's not good. Mm-hmm. Colorado beat them 34-7. Cincinnati, mid. They beat them 34-23 at home, by the way. And on the road at Texas Tech, nice win. I'm going to give them credit for Texas Tech. Texas Tech, I think, is a good team, not a great team. Not a ranked team, not a top 25 team.
But they had figured some things. I mean, it was a team that, when they beat Iowa State, everybody goes, okay, hold on a minute. Hold the phone. They played some decent defense. It's their best defensive outing of the year. And then they blew it against Colorado. But I get what you're saying. It hasn't been. It's not like that they've. It's not that they've gone through.
Has not accomplished anything this year.
It's not that they've gone through the gauntlet.
Utah can't go over there, play their best, play their guts out, play the best they're capable of, and not come away with a win. There's no reason why they can't.
Here's the thing, though, is that last year, after they had lost to Washington, and they went down to Tucson, and they got the doors blown off of them there against a team that they never lose to, right? That's what Colorado feels like is the team that they never lose to. They get a gut punch like they got. And it's not just a gut punch like, man, some of our goals are gone. Cam Rising had been out for the majority of the year already, or the entire year already at that point. And Bryson Barnes was kind of doing some nice things. He was very hit and miss. There was good Bryson and bad Bryson. But there was also the idea of, okay, but you got to finish this season strong. Arizona smelled blood in the water, right? And with that blood in the water, guess what happened?
Utah was sick. There was a bunch of players that had the flu
they had guys. But this one is
no excuses though.
Your third string quarterback who you were planning on starting might be hurt. You might have to go back to the freshman that you've been trying to instill some confidence in and maybe just kind of get a whole reset after this year and maybe a new offensive coordinator. I don't know if
What a story it would be, Alex, if Isaac Wilson goes into Boulder and leads Utah to a win on Saturday.
I really hope that that's the case.
That would
versus
be an awesome
rolling out
story.
the Ferrari.
Ooh.
Rolling out
Vroom, vroom.
Luke Bertari, the Ferrari.
Take
Alex,
off that headset.
Settle down when he does it. He comes in against Arizona State. Arizona State came in wearing white. It was basically a white flag.
No, he beat Colorado last year.
Oh, it was Colorado. That was right. Oh,
But we
Again.
all know who didn't play. Shadir.
And by the way, Shadir is trying to make
Travis Hunter didn't play in that game either.
Okay, Travis Hunter and Shadur Sanders are trying to basically be 1 and 2 in the draft next year. Like, that's what their goal is. That's honestly what they're trying to go for. And they could do it if they finish a certain way this year.
Uh-huh.
If they go to the Big 12 championship game, which they're in control of their own destiny.
Yes.
You could see a BYU and Colorado Big 12 championship game, and we're laughing our way all the way down to Arlington.
Just as we all predicted.
I know, we're laughing our way to Arlington going, and Brett Yormark is into Club peeling off the singles. He can't even believe how blessed he's been to get Colorado and Coach Prime, who's going to be out the door taking that Dallas Cowboys job at the end of the year. I mean, my goodness, the storyline that comes with this, it's as good as it gets. However, I'm not sure still if Colorado's a very good football team. And here's Coach Whittingham, what he says about Colorado and their offense. Obviously, Colorado's offense has been something very, very potent the last couple of years. It's always been that defense that's been a question. They certainly have the talent. Here's what Witt said about that Colorado offense.
Yeah, they're running the ball a little more efficiently and with a little more frequency than last year. 330 throwing the football. But quarterback has a quick release. He's a terrific quarterback. He'll be one of the most likely the top players taken in the draft next year. And as you mentioned, not just Hunter outside. They got 3 or 4 guys they can get the ball to. So that's a big part of what they do is getting the ball. Speed and space is what we call it, getting the ball into the hands of the playmakers in space and letting them do their thing.
You've got fewer playmakers now, obviously, without tight end Brant Kuithe. Here's what Witt said about the offense and why they struggled so badly against that BYU team in the second half.
Didn't execute as well. The play calling was fairly similar as far as the ratio run to pass, maybe a little more run heavy than in the first half, but just didn't quite have the execution that we had in the first half. Didn't make the plays that we made in the first half, and so that was the difference offensively.
So you had a couple things go on yesterday, and you had Witt address the media, Mekhi Bernard address the media, Freddie Whittingham Jr., who of course is who is the tight ends coach at the University of Utah. I want to get to his because Freddie's comments about the tight end room, because Kuithe not being there is a huge deal, but obviously they have a lot of names in that tight end room. It's about who's going to be able to step up next.
Well, I think that everyone steps up, but, you got Landon King, who kind of filled that type of role last season when Brant was taking a medical red shirt. You got Caleb Lohner, you got Carson Ryan. So we have the guys that have the pass game skills to be able to step up into that role.
Who's going to get it into their hands? That's the biggest question. That's the biggest question. It's not just the biggest question, it's the biggest worry if you're a Utah fan, because think about where you're at right now. No Cam Rising. Don't know if they want Isaac Wilson still running this offense yet. If Brandon Rose isn't able to go, then you're down to a 4th-string quarterback, and it falls off quite a bit. Here's what Witt did say about Brandon Rose, because I know that, I think there were some impressive moments that Brandon Rose ended up having. And here's what he said about how Rose performed against BYU.
I thought he provided a spark and actually played pretty darn good. The one interception he had in the second half was not his error. It was a route structure error. Had one of the receivers run the incorrect route. I thought that Brandon, for his first collegiate start and first opportunity, did a really nice job and did some good things. All
right. How about what Mekhi Bernard said about the guy who is in this? And that's actually one of the things that I can't wait to ask Mekhi about is like, hey, when Brandon Rose is in the huddle, what's the difference? What's the noticeable difference when he's in there? Here's what Mekhi said about Brandon Rose's performance.
He played spectacular, threw a pick, but that was just miscommunication by the receiver and himself. But that's the only mistake I've seen him have. Other than that, he played a good game. He used his legs very well. He can run now, and he showed that, and his arm is spectacular. He was just going through his reads, doing a great job. I think he played excellent.
All right, so there you go. I mean, at the end of everything, the personnel and whether or not you have, the personnel of who's going to be, actually playing in the game, that makes a huge difference. And if it's going to change, if you're going to be disrupted even more this week about who's going to be – look, it's one thing to have next guy up mentality. It's another to ask you to have the fourth man up mentality, right?
Right, but we saw it last year. This is nothing new for this program. It hasn't been ideal.
No.
But they fought through it.
And the more that I think about it, too, the more that I'm like, gosh darn it, this team –
they fought to 8-5 last year. They have a chance to do it one more time.
That's pretty crazy.
But they have no margin for error left. They're already at 5.
Yeah, I'm one of these guys that just wonders, exactly how this thing is going to go down for Utah, because it's not just whether or not Utah can go in there and get the win. It's what the next 3 games really is going to shape up to look like. And it's damage control on the young guys in your program too, a little bit, right? If you are so down and out, if you can't figure some things out, if you have a hard enough time trying to understand exactly, who it is that's going to be leading your team, I just think it's one of those. I think it's one of those deals that you have to look at and you go, all right, what's the best way for us to approach this? Not just to win the game, but also to make some development happen over these next 3 games. Absolutely. All right. Here's what Witt said about Brant Kuithe, and obviously, stepping up in place of a guy that has been part of this program for a long time. There's a lot of emotion that goes along with it, and Kyle Whittingham doesn't have time to, think back on how difficult of a road it's going to be for him and how hard it's already been. But here's what Witt said about Brant Kuithe.
Well, Carson Ryan is a player that is right up there towards the top. And, of course, Bentley's been seeing plenty of time all season long. Landon King becomes more of a factor for us, as hopefully does our big tight end Caleb Lohner. Sugataranga has had his role all season long, not as much as last year, and it's a little bit diminished since the beginning of the year, but he's another guy that will be in the mix. So we still have plenty of depth and plenty of bodies in that room and guys that can get it done.
All right. And they're hoping those guys can get it done. Here's what you do know. The defense is healthy, right? I'm looking around.
They were great last week.
They were phenomenal. They're still the number 1 scoring defense of the Big 12.
Yes.
They're still a top 15 defensive team in the country. And that's going to be problematic for Colorado, who has no idea how to handle a really, really good defense. And frankly, their offense is good, but have they seen the type of competition that they've had that Utah brings into Boulder this week? That's why
they haven't seen a defense this good.
No, but the question is the team down? You know what I mean? Like
right.
Not just the offense, but is the team down? Can they respond? I don't want there to be some. And again, these guys only know how to operate by going next game, next man up, next person, let's go. You still have a massively disrupted defensive line. You still have a linebacker group and you have by the way, you have a healthy Karenni Reed, right? Who missed how many games at the beginning of the year? 4 games.
Yeah,
it was a handful of games.
Just half the season.
And you know what?
He was almost a hero on Saturday.
Think about how good that defense is with Lander Barton, with Zamiah Vaughn at the corner, with your safeties, with Karenni Reed, who's that headhunter who's going to be in the NFL.
Van Fillinger
is going to be a mess for these guys. And that's a Colorado team that gives up the 3rd most sacks in the entire conference. Now, kudos to them. They're not dead last this year in sacks given up in the conference. So, congrats to that offensive line. And by the way, one of the offensive linemen who came over from Colorado could be getting a start this weekend for BYU. That's who came in for Braden Keim on that right is one of those Colorado transfers. So, it's a lot. It's a lot for the Utes to be able to figure out, and I hope they can get right. If there's somebody who can dial up their guys, it's Kyle Whittingham. All right, we'll come back. More to go right around the corner. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It's another edition of JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I wasn't trying to say it like that. It's another edition. Oh, we love our jobs, okay? I'm saying it's another edition. Like, we keep doing this, man. We keep going along. And by the way, it's another college football playoff ranking day. It's a Tuesday.
Oh,
the
I can't
problem
wait
is
for the controversy.
What I'm pissed about is normally we get it right at 5 o'clock, our last hour of the show. And then today, ESPN punts it to 6:30 Mountain Time, 8:30 Eastern. What's your deal, ESPN? But no matter. We'll get all the predictions and we'll get all the thoughts here from college football news editor and the guy who knows everything about everything college football-wise, Pete Fiutak on the program. Pete, thanks for being with us.
Well, they couldn't have done this like any other time last week. Like, they dropped the rankings the split second the first exit polls and that other thing that was going on.
Oh, yeah. That.
At the exact same time. It's like, look, like, if your whole goal here is to promote your product, because these aren't the rankings. These are just the snapshots and exhibition. It's just them kind of testing it out. It's not like these are the final, authoritative rankings. You could have done this any other time than when the 98% of the world is all focused on, that. And so, like, even I, like, okay, they're the rankings. That's cool. So what happened in that thing? So, like, it's crazy how they're doing this. But tonight we get to give full focus to this and actually dissect it a little bit more.
All right. Once it comes out, a little speculation here on your part. Who do you think is going to be the biggest winner tonight? Who could be the biggest loser?
I think that we can kind of see how this is all shaping out. It's nothing. None of this matters, remember, because did you win your big games? Did you finish with 10 wins, 11 wins? Did you win your conference championship? It's a snapshot for the moment. So everyone's going to be screaming and yelling like, oh my gosh, look at there's 19 SEC teams in the top 5, and all that kind of stuff.
They'd do it if they could.
Well, hey, rankings-wise, well, that's going to be the interesting part about all this, because do they go by what they've been doing for the last 10 years? If they go, because in the 10 years of the college football playoff rankings, there's never been a time when an 11-win Power 5, now Power 4 team would have been left out. The only time it would have been close was the year that Cincinnati finished in the top 3, and that year Pitt was like 11-2, but they were ranked 12th. But that would have been it. So for the most part, if you're 10-2, you're at least knocking on the door. If you're 11-1, 11-2, that'll be the question if it's like an SMU or something. And 9-3, if you're 9-3 and you're Alabama or Georgia or Tennessee and you get in, yeah, there's room for screaming there. But how we can kind of see this shaping up is the sweet spot is if you're Penn State, if you're Indiana, or if you're Notre Dame, you're probably shaping up to go 11-1. And if you can go at 11-1 without having to play a conference championship, that's an extra. Then your 13th game is a home game, and you have 3 weeks off to rest. The loser is the team that loses its Power 4 conference championship because they get the extra game, could get bounced. And so this will be interesting to see how they kind of shape things up a little bit.
That's actually interesting you brought up because JJ and I have been yelling about how Penn State is going boo-hoo, and yet at the same time, when they lost to Ohio State, yet it might have been the best thing that could have happened for them because they lose. They're not in the Big 12 or in the Big 10 championship game conversation. They don't even go to that championship game. They're one loss, and they're freaking Penn State. So of course they're going to be like the 5 or 6 seed, and like you said, have extra time off. I mean, my heavens, like I don't even know how to approach this thing.
Well, now there's a flip side to that. So yes. So the Big Ten championship loser is probably the 5. 6 is probably Notre Dame-ish, Penn State-ish, Indiana, and that's if they're assuming they all go 11-1. That's probably your 6, 7, and 8. Well, then, hey, Merry Christmas! You're a 5 seed. Welcome to probably Clemson. And then if you're a 6 seed, hey, you get a home game against Georgia. It's not like you're going to get like some lightweight. Like, yeah, you'd kind of like to have the Boise State game. But they might be a 4 seed. I know we're talking here, but honestly, would you rather play Alabama in the first round of the playoff or BYU? Like it's going to be kind of strange how this thing how this thing's going to get seeded.
Well, let's talk a little bit about. I know some people may have a little bit of it because it's one that you have BYU rolled out as the number 7 team for what you think the College Football Playoff Committee is going to pick tonight. But overall, what is BYU's ultimate landing spot, do you think, at the end of this whole thing when they've played 12 or 13 games?
If they run the table, they're number 3 at worst, if not higher. If they win the conference championship and go 12-1, I think they get into the top 4. Then the ACC team might – in that case, the ACC team gets knocked out for a 12-1 Boise State, or then definitely 12-1 BYU's in. If they're 11-2, if they blow these last couple games, then then it gets a little iffy. If they don't win the Big 12 championship, then it gets interesting because the Big 12 is not good. It's a bad conference. I mean, it's fun. I mean, everyone's having a great time. Everybody can beat everybody, but it's just not very strong. So I don't know how much respect. I think 11-2 BYU, if it loses the Big 12 championship, it's going to get really, really dicey depending on what happens with all those SEC teams. Because right now, think about it. You've got Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Texas A&M. Two of them are not going to make it, and that's not even including a Missouri. Did I say Tennessee? There's like 7 or 8 teams, and not everyone's going to get in this thing, and all of them are kind of worthy considering their schedules that they've played.
But then it doesn't feel like this in the end could be just like, yeah, well, the Big Ten and the SEC just dominate this thing just like we all predicted, and you're even hearing you said 3 losses. It gets dicey there, but then there's other people like Heather Dinich is saying today that don't count out a 9-3 SEC team. Like, what are we doing here then? What are we doing here then if this is just the Big Ten SEC Invitational?
Who'd you beat? And so it depends on who that SEC team is because, honestly, BYU, what's going to be the big key is that SMU game because that's the one. You want SMU to keep winning because the committee loves it when they can point that they have a reason, when they can justify something. And so the big saving grace is if SMU keeps winning, if they at least play for the ACC championship, because they haven't had to play Clemson or Miami or any of the really good teams, then that's a pretty good feather. That's a pretty good argument for the Cougars coming into this. But that's also sort of the thing, like how does the committee are they really staring at the schedules? Because, like, for example, this Indiana thing's fun and all, but Michigan's going to go 6-6, and that's their best win. They haven't played Ohio State yet. They don't play Penn State. They don't play Oregon. They haven't really played anybody who's all that great. Army has yet to play a team that's going to go to a bowl game. And then look at like a team like Texas A&M, where Texas A&M, they don't play Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, or Georgia. And they get Texas at the end. Texas does not have a win. I mean, you look at their schedule, it's Texas. Of course, not really. If they lose to Texas A&M, I don't know how you put them in because they don't have their biggest win is over what? Michigan?
Michigan.
There's nothing there. There's no big win.
Vanderbilt?
Exactly. Yeah. and they struggled in that. So it is going to be – so I don't agree with the 9-3 SEC team because there's going to be other 10-2 teams that are going to have to be left out for them.
What is the Big 12's situation like as a conference? Like, where have they totally, like, because we've talked about how insane that the conference has been this year and the way that, conference apologists approach it is, oh, well, it's just so amazing, so much parity. And I think a lot of people outside of it look and they go, hey, you're underperforming as a conference here. All the people who are supposed to be at the top of this thing aren't at the top. And I know you've got an undefeated team at the top, and then you have a one-loss, Colorado team in conference play. But, I mean, do people look at the Big 12 and say, oh, this is a down year for you guys? The ACC is obviously better than you in terms of the Power 4 conferences.
I know both of them stink. Look, that both can be true at once because look at the Big 12 overall. I mean, yes, part of the problem is you don't have a dominant team that everyone can go after. And that's the insane part about this is that before the season, what was the kind of the party line? Well, Utah's the best team, and then Arizona's right there, and then Oklahoma State's really good. So there you got those three, which are probably the odds-on overall favorites, and then maybe throw a Kansas State in there. All of a sudden, those three teams are the three that aren't going to make a bowl game this year. Pretty much everyone else could do it. I mean, it's crazy how this is where, it is a good conference. But you're right. Colorado is on a roll. They're playing great now. But they also got housed by Nebraska. That just doesn't look good on the overarching resume. There's just not a lot of meat on the bone there. And same thing for the ACC. It's Miami. You saw this. The Georgia Tech thing was way overdue. Miami's good, but they've been close to getting tagged, at several points this season. And look, I'm very curious to see what your after the fact take was, but they're for a let's say a call. BYU loses to a mediocre Utah team last week, and I think the world's not really on BYU as anything major yet. But hey, look, again, their resume's not bad because of SMU right now.
You just mentioned BYU, and you look at their resume, and it's as good or better than anybody in the mix right now. Yet, are they being dinged for having a couple wins where they had to pull it out at the end? And what is the committee really looking for here? Do you have to go and kick everybody's butt by 30 points like Indiana, and it doesn't matter your schedule? It just seems, Pete, like what are they looking for? What does the committee need to prove?
Well,
because BYU's resume is better than a lot of these teams that they're behind.
Like who? Like who?
Well, you just mentioned all these teams.
Win?
Like Texas doesn't have a top 25 win right now.
True.
And a loss.
Okay, true, but BYU, okay, SMU, and what else?
Kansas State. It was pretty darn good.
They whipped Kansas State 38-9.
Yeah, but Kansas State's okay. I mean, like, what else? I mean,
but I could do the same thing with Indiana. I could do the same thing with Texas. I could do the same thing with Tennessee. Outside of the Alabama win.
Here's the thing. You just named the three teams that you're dead on right on.
Who's Penn State beat this year?
Well, the difference being here that Texas still has to play Texas A&M. Tennessee is getting Georgia this week. Indiana's playing Ohio State. So, yes, on all three of them, but they still have a game that you can point to. Remember, I mean, I'm just arguing how the committee works here.
Exactly.
And how the committee's going to say it. Like, they're going to look at it and be like, all right, that's good, but I mean, SMU's the one. I mean, that's why you need SMU to keep it. That's the one thing that you can kind of point to. Now, again, as long as BYU wins the Big 12 championship, who cares? Your problem and your concern is if they don't. Then it's a problem. But look, if you win the Big 12 championship, you're in at the 3 seed at worst.
Unless, of course, Boise State and Army run the table.
No, Army, come on.
Well, here's the thing. Army gets Notre Dame.
Right.
At the end of the whole point.
If they beat Notre Dame, then that's it. Then we can start taking them serious.
I didn't even mention Notre Dame, Pete, who lost to Northern Illinois on their home field.
Yeah, but that was years ago.
But they beat Texas A&M.
They did beat Texas. See, here's the problem with this, too, is the committee, and again, I used to work with the committee in this group. I know how it rolls. They know college football now. Do they really do the deep? I mean, these are people with lives. I mean, they do stuff. So do they really do the complete deep dive? Now, to do the deep dive on Northern Illinois, that was the weirdest aberration of a game where they blew it. I mean, it's not like Northern Illinois was better, not that Notre Dame was bad. They only decided to run 24 times. It was like a historically bad coached game. However, Notre Dame's also beaten. They had the highest margin of victory in October, and then they just came up with another one. So, it's a great team that had a really historically bad day. So that's where there's supposed to be some subtlety and nuance to this, where you're like, yeah, you lost to Notre Dame. But with that said, though, if you look at the rest of the schedule, if Notre Dame loses to Virginia, Army, or a mediocre USC, 10-2 probably doesn't get it done. So 11-1, yes. 10-2, no.
He leaves no rock unturned. He does have historical perspective, and his life is this. He's Pete Fiutak, College Football News. Yeah. There you go. Pete, we love having you on, man. We love the passion, as always.
Great conversation, Pete.
Love it. And you know what? It's 3 weeks of regular season football to talk about for all of these scenarios to be totally moot points. It doesn't for us to all be proven wrong. So in the end,
just win your conference championship, and everything
will be fine. All right, Pete. Thanks, man. We appreciate it.
There you guys.
There you go. We'll take a break. We got a lot to digest on that, but we got to get out. We're way late. You know why? Because Pete Fiutak's fun to talk to. All right. We'll come back. More to go. 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Listen, everybody. Real-life hypotheticals to get your brain churning. As JJ and Alex ask, would you rather?
All right, JJ. Would you rather see Lincoln Riley get fired?
No.
No.
I want USC to suffer. I want them to have to keep him there for the entirety of his contract.
You're right saying no.
Pay him every penny.
You're right saying no because the next one for sure.
Okay.
You're going
Sorry,
to.
I jumped the gun there.
No. Or have Mike Tyson beat Jake Paul to bits.
Oh, now I'm confused because I really want Jake Paul to.
I know. That's what I'm
to get it.
Oh, I was going to say. I thought you were going to say take it to Iron Mike. I was about to disown you.
I mean, come on now.
The face tattoo is like losing some. Can we touch that thing up, or does he not want it touched up anymore?
Is he hoping it's just naturally going to fade away?
I think he was hoping that maybe later on in life he'd be like,
talk about bad decisions.
I know.
I mean, Mike Tyson's made plenty. Probably not the worst decision he's ever made, but it wasn't a good one.
No, and that was Weird Mike. There's Iron Mike, there was Weird Mike, and now we got really fun older
entrepreneurial Mike.
Yes, stage at Las Vegas Mike,
stock market Mike.
Come on, I'm telling you. I want nothing more than to see that smile wipe off of Jake and Paul's face.
Now I tune into Instagram to get wisdom from Mike Tyson.
I want
what
nothing.
a world we live in.
I just don't think that a 60-plus-year-old can.
He's not your normal 60-plus-year-old.
I know, and I want to see one of those uppercuts.
Did he just beat the crap out of somebody in some kind of fight, like in the last 5 years?
You mean not on TMZ or something, or like there was like caught
wasn't
on
there something he did recently? I don't remember.
I don't know. I just know that when they show his videos of him training, it's still terrifying, and I love it. And Jake Paul needs to be put in his place. All he's doing is signing up fights with people who he thinks are just going to be on in their years, inferior to him. And frankly, so far it's been the case. He only picks the fights that he thinks are going to be the ones that. Good news is I already have Netflix, and so I get to watch it. Do you have to pay extra? Do we have to upgrade or something?
No, if it's on Netflix, it comes with it.
Good.
So you can do that, you can watch a fight, and then you can watch him in The Hangover. When you're done. How convenient.
Yeah. Hey, let's put together a fund to touch up that face tattoo for Mike Tyson, huh?
Maybe that's why he's doing this fight.
He needs some new ink.
Pay for the tattoo removal.
All right. We got more to go right around the corner. Stay with us. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.